This is Capturing Light, episode number 143, with Todd A. Dos Reis, ASC.
Welcome to Capturing Light, a director of photographers podcast, spotlighting cinematography tips, tools, and techniques, inspiring and educating filmmakers like you so you can illuminate your vision. And now, your host, Les Gaddis.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. I am your host, Les Gaddis, and today we are talking to Todd A. Dos Reis, ASC. He is the cinematographer of a lot of things, a lot of great shows and films. On this podcast, we're talking about the Blackening, and we're just, overall talking cinematography, talking about his career, talking about the way that he came up. And it was just a fantastic conversation. I had, fun chatting with him, and he's just an overall cool dude to talk to. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Todd Reis, ASC. So I want to thank Todd A. Dos Reis, ASC, for coming on the Capture Light podcast. How are you doing, sir?
I am fine. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And I just wanted to start by just seeing how you started out in the industry. How did you come up?
Well, after I graduated from USC Film School, I have to go back a little further. So while I was still at USC Film School, and USC being one of the most prestigious film schools in the country and expensive film schools in the country, USC wants you to pay to get an internship.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to pay USC to get an internship. I was like, no, I think I'm just going to find my own internship. So I found my own internship at this company called Show Films, which had just done a film called Slam Dance, which is about to do a film called Critters 2. So that internship led me to becoming an office PA, which I got to meet all the incoming possible DPs,
Mm-hmm.
which was great because I knew I wanted to be a cinematographer by then. And so when they started production on Critters 2, I hung around camera, grip, and lighting departments to see which ones I liked the best, which department I think I thought I might want to be in. And somehow I ended up liking the camera guys and learning from the camera guys, the camera assistants.
Mm-hmm.
They would literally, this is back in the film days, they would literally let me take film camera magazines home on the weekend with dummy loads of film and practice loading. So I did that for a couple weekends. Literally within, 3 to 4 weeks, I was loading the real film of that movie as a production assistant. And actually they came about where they needed a loader because they were shooting so much film. And the DP on that was Russell Carpenter, who's still a mentor of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Carpenter shot Titanic and the new Avatar. Been around for 30 years. But I became the loader. I was I was no longer a PA, officially a camera loader on a movie. So I went from intern to PA to loader on a movie, which was fantastic. And then even further from that, they started a second unit. So I went from loader to second AC, which is an unheard of story back now because of all the union work. There's hardly any non-union work. But back in those days, to go from an intern to a second AC on one show was improbable.
Right.
So I did that. I started working in the camera department, started working on a lot of non-union shows. But I always had my goal in mind was, no, I'm still a cinematographer. So on weekends, I was shooting music videos, documentaries, commercials, whatever there was, for my cinematography base, mm-hmm. and making money and just making money and continuing up the camera ladder in the feature world. So I had two paths, basically. I was DPing a lot of stuff, and I was still camera assisting. And that camera assisting led me to the union, because soon all the features I was working on became union, or one became union, and then I was always on the union path. So
Mm-hmm.
that's basically how I started.
Right. Wow. And then from I guess doing the union AC work alongside with the cam opping, when was that transition from I guess taking on AC jobs and assisting to only cam opping, or to, just saying, okay, I'm only going to be a cinematographer?
Right. Well, no, I was always DPing. So that was
Okay.
always, even from my loading time, when I was a little loader, didn't know anything, I was still DPing stuff. So there was always, and I was based in LA, so there's always stuff going on. But going from AC to operator, that took, I think 9 years as a focus puller. Then I became an operator. But all that time, all those 9 years of focus pulling, I was still DPing. So
Mm-hmm.
I was always DPing on this level. And
Right.
then I became an operator. I don't know. I was started to operate in the late '90s or something, and I got on a show called Entourage.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an HBO show called Entourage, and they finally let me start DPing an episode in, I guess, season 5 or something crazy. And then by season 7, I was a full-time DP on that, and I never stopped DPing. So all the camera assisting stuff ended, and
Right.
camera operating didn't end, because on the Blackening, the film I did, I was operator and a DP. So on the
Wow.
lower budget stuff, and I love operating. Camera operating is the best job on the set,
Right.
no question, no question. Um, but I love operating, so I'll DP on movies when I can.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like union TV shows, I have to like just hand it off to camera operators. And
Right.
camera operators, I'm very tough on camera operators, because I have this way about me where I pretty much did. Entourage was probably the hardest show you could do as an operator, because it was all handheld all the time, 35 millimeter film,
Mm-hmm.
and walking with people backwards, upstairs, downstairs, side, down the street, up the street, up a hill, everywhere. So you have to be. I know you have to be an athlete to be a camera operator. So when I hire camera operators, the first or second question I ask is, "What sport did you play in high school or college?"
Mm-hmm.
And if they
Wow.
say, "Well, I didn't really play sports," I just go, "Thank you, nice meeting you. It's been a pleasure meeting you."
Oh,
Because I
wow.
know, it's operating is all about timing and
Right.
where to put your body so you can get the shot. It's a lot of athletic stuff. So, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
be in shape.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's just a little side of how I DP and how I like my operators to be. But
Right.
that's the way I came up as through the camera ranks to be a DP.
Right. Well, and that's interesting. I was actually gonna go there as far as asking what you look for in cam operators as my next question. So yeah, let's jump into the Blackening. How did that project come about, and how did you get, I guess, brought on to the Blackening?
Um, so like I said, I went to USC Film School, and a little after I was there, a director named Tim Story went there. And there are so few Black people in USC, period, if you're not on the football team or the basketball team. Um, and in the film school, there's obviously even less. So
Right.
about, or who graduated ahead of you that was in the film school. So I was ahead of Tim, and then Tim got out of film school and started, hit it right away. So I knew about Tim, and we worked together on some projects coming up. But we had been aware of each other, and he asked me to do a few pilots with him.
Mm-hmm.
So we had done a few pilots together, and then they called Tim to do the movie, and he called me, and I was like, oh, absolutely, because up until now I had mostly done decades of television as a
Right.
DP, and I went to film school, not TV school, film school, so I could be a cinematographer on films. And so my goal is to be a cinematographer on film. So that's what I wanted to do. So I was like, I jumped at the chance to work with Tim and do a movie. And it was I was never into horror, but it was a horror comedy genre hybrid, which I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, this is original. That's another thing I look for in my projects, is things that are original. like if you look at my TV history, I don't think there's many things that are normal television. Like Entourage wasn't normal television, Longmire wasn't normal television, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend not normal television, David Makes Man not normal television. Um, so I've been lucky that my love for originality has come up. And
Mm-hmm.
this movie, you know, I thought it was very original, very funny. I mean, I thought I could do a lot of things with the lighting, so I was like, I jumped at the chance.
Right. That's awesome. Now, in all of your past work, whether it's television or film, um, do you think that because you're looking for originality, that like you have a original style, or you know, like what would you say as far as like your shooting style, if you even have one, or if you kind of adapt with the project, or can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, as a cinematographer, I don't really want to have a set style. I want to be able to be like a chameleon where I can change at any moment. Like I can do a comedy, I can do a western, I can do a musical comedy drama. You know, I could do very high drama, very dark drama. Um, so I don't want to be pigeonholed into like, oh, he just does comedy. Like no one can really say that about me. Well, I'm
Right.
sure they do, and that's why they'll come up with excuses not to hire you. Like, oh, he just does this, but I really don't. I
Right.
mean, look, if you look at my resume, everything is very different. Like, I have a show on NBC right now called The Irrational, which is probably my only procedural I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's with Jesse L. Martin on NBC right now. Um, but before that, I can't remember. I mean, Longmire is not. You can't. I don't even think you can consider that a procedural because you'd have episodes that would go on. You know, storylines that would go on for 5 episodes. So I don't think you can call that a procedural.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one thing. It bores me. I
Mm-hmm.
like to do something different. And I mean, sometimes I don't even like to do season two of
Right.
something because it's
Right.
the same. It's usually the same thing. But I mean, the shows I've done, the season twos have been the shows that I've done more than one season of are like super original. Like
Right.
Crazy Ex Girlfriend. Crazy Ex Girlfriend was a musical comedy drama where we did 3 musical numbers within the hour-long episode.
Mm-hmm.
So that those musical numbers uh, extended the story. Like it carried the story to the end, you know. But
Wow.
it made sense if you watch an episode of that. So it would, and every music video was different. So think of any, you know, music video that you can ever think of. We did it.
Right.
It was so much fun. So that kind of thing helps me not get bored
Mm-hmm.
and keeps my creativity and my originality going.
Right. No, that's awesome. For all of the, I guess, tech nerds out there that might be listening to this because of the Blackening, could you talk a little bit about camera package, lens choice, you know, kind of knock some of that stuff out for me?
Well, the blackening I used, and this actually was, if it's in the this month's issue or the last month's issue. Let me see. It's right on my table. It's the October issue of American Cinematographer. There's an article about the blackening, but I
Mm-hmm.
used the red Monstro cameras. We had two. Operated one. Robert Arnold operated the B camera and Steadicam. I used the Airy Zeiss Master Primes that
Mm-hmm.
were 1.3 because I was shooting black people at night with no lights. So I
Mm-hmm.
needed to have as much latitude as possible. Um, yeah, and that was pretty much it. We didn't use any. There was no other. I mean, it was a 20-day shoot, um, so we weren't really fast. There weren't any like extra camera days where we had big stunts. It
Right.
was just like 2 cameras go kind of thing. But those are the cameras, the Red Monstro and the Aries Ice Master Primes.
Right. How long was the prep on a feature like that?
I think we had 3 weeks, 3 weeks of
Mm-hmm.
prep.
Okay. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it because I mean I've seen the trailer a bunch and I hear fantastic things about it, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, unfortunately, you can't see it in the theaters anymore unless it's like playing at an art house or a midnight showing, which I'm sure it's going to start because it had a big cult following. But
Yeah.
the way to see it is if you see it in a theater with a bunch of people. If you can't do that, see it at home, but invite people to see it with you because it's more you want to participate.
Right.
There's like audience participation stuff in there.
Right. No, for sure. That's awesome. Um, let's talk about inspiration. Like, what inspires you creatively, or who inspires you creatively?
Um, well, I mean, I always look at um, other directors of photography, other directors, um, and usually before I start a project, whether it's television or feature or commercial, or music video, anything, I always look at a Gordon Willis film, a
Mm-hmm.
Conrad Hall film, or a
Mm-hmm.
Roger Deakins film, um, and also a Bradford Young film. Uh, that would be my Mount Rushmore of cinematographers. I start with one of their films, and that's all I need. I go, I need to get there. I
Right.
may never get there, but that's what I'm aiming for, kind of thing. So I dream big, and I always just aim for that. And if I fall short, which I usually do with those four people,
Right.
I'm fine with it. I usually have good results regardless.
Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, too, I feel like you should, throw your name in the bucket of, you know, like,
Oh,
the
stop.
film giants. Because, yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
come
I
on.
hear you. I hear you. So from like a standpoint of someone that's just starting out, like maybe they're just starting film school, and they're like, man, like I watched Entourage or Longmire, like I look at your work and I aspire to be at the top cinematography, like what advice do you give to students, to people that want to make it in the cinematography in their journey?
I think it's a big part of it is networking, always being in a place where, or try to be in a place where you're going to find other people of like
Hmm.
mindedness that you are, like always looking for people that are like aspiring to do stuff, and no matter where they are. And as a cinematographer, just always shooting something, like even if uh, it's you're not getting paid,
Hmm.
whenever you shoot, you're going to learn something. It could be something small that you're not going to use for years, but you'll remember that the higher you get on that ladder,
Right.
you'll remember that one lesson you learned. It might have been a mistake. It might have been a mistake that you were shooting something and you did something with the camera, and it was like the edges were out of focus, but you were like, oh, this looks good, but it was a mistake. Things like that, like these crazy mistakes that you make when you're young, and then as you go up, you go, that just becomes part of your toolkit.
Right.
So always be shooting. Always be shooting something, even if you're not getting paid, or you're not very interested in it, but you need to shoot. You always need to shoot. And like, I don't do this anymore, I'm looking for a small still camera so I can do this. Is just always carry a camera with you.
Right.
Just to, like, instead of being on that phone
Hmm.
and using the phone as your camera, use a camera that has maybe a little lens on it that you just it looks different. Like,
Right.
shooting through a digital camera or a 35 millimeter camera looks different from shooting on your iPhone or
Right.
your Android. I mean, always like have a camera just strapped to you, or something you can pull out your thing and go, what if I did this? What if I got on the ground? You're waiting for somebody at coffee, and you see somebody on the street.
Right.
Um, I've been reading this book, a family, a friend of mine's brother. So I know their whole family, and there's literally a family of brothers. Is a very famous photographer named Anthony Barboza.
Hmm.
I've read. I'm reading 2 of his books right now. And one is a book called Kamonga. I can't even say it. Kamonga Workshop, which was this group of Black photographers in Harlem that started in the 60s, and they had workshops and they taught themselves and they critiqued each other's work, and they all became photographers. And they just last year, I think it was, had a show in at the Getty Museum. But these guys were all street photographers, and they all branched off. Like Anthony Barboza got into like all this advertising and high fashion stuff and big time things, but they always carried cameras with them. Like there was, I don't know, 12 or 13 of them, but they always had cameras with them. And they were always on the street shooting, and they weren't planning on shooting. They'd just be out shooting, and stuff happens. So that's why I like, for any new person that wants to be a cinematographer, carry a camera with you at all times. Not an iPhone, a camera.
Yeah, an actual camera.
An actual camera.
Awesome. Well, how can people keep up with what you're doing? Like, can they go to your website? Are you on social?
I'm on, I have a website. It's todddosreis.com. I'm on Instagram, probably Todd Dos Reis Instagram. I don't do a lot of stuff on social. I mean, once in a while there's stuff on there. I just don't do it often enough, which I should.
Right.
But my website's pretty up to date. Facebook, you can find me on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thanks so much for taking a little bit of time and talking about your career, a little bit about the Blackening. I really appreciate you. This has been fun.
All right, Les, no problem. Let me know anytime you have questions.
So again, I want to thank Todd for coming on the Capturing Light podcast. Be sure to go to his website, follow him on Instagram. Go watch the Blackening, if you can. If it's still showing where you are, if there's a way to potentially rent it and watch it with friends, have a laugh, maybe, have, some people that get scared. But watch it and it'll be fun. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, les@gaddisvisuals.com. And I hope you enjoyed this brief conversation, with Todd. It was fun, and I wanted to go longer, but time is a thing. So anyway, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, maybe a fantastic night or morning, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Capturing Light.
Thanks for listening to Capturing Light with Les Gaddis, a director of photographers podcast. Inspiring and educating filmmakers like you so you can illuminate your vision. A Gaddis Visuals production.